The hour has come. Take my lips and speak through them. Take our ears and hear through them. Take our hearts and set them on fire with love for thee. May I speak in the name of the living God.
Amen.
The last of the sand is falling through the hourglass. 2 Greeks have come to see Jesus, showing that the world beyond Israel is knocking at the door. With their arrival, the time for preaching and teaching is over. There is now no more time for parables that confuse, console, and cause listeners to ponder. No more time for miracles to point the way to the realization that the eternal, transformative, life-giving power of God is breaking in here. There is finally, after all Jesus has said and done, no more time. Throughout John's gospel, the phrase echoes like a refrain, "My hour has not yet come." Jesus had said it to his mother when she wanted him to turn the water into wine at Cana. "My hour has not yet come." When his brothers taunted him to go to the Passover feast, he had replied, "Your hour is always here, but my hour has not yet come." When the authorities tried to lay hands on him earlier in the gospel, he eluded them because his hour had not yet come. And now at last, it has. The hour has come for the Son of Man to be glorified. We know this experience ourselves. Now is the time to go to the doctor. Now is the time to make the call. Now is the time to stop kidding ourselves that it's someone else's problem. Change doesn't roll in on the wheels of inevitability, said King. Look around you. What kind of world do you want to live in? The hour has come. The hour has come for the Son of Man to be glorified. How their hearts must have soared when they heard it, thinking glory means conquest and victory and spoils and ticker tape parades and open back cars. But glory doesn't mean that in John's gospel or for Jesus. For John, glory means sacrifice. Jesus' crucifixion is Jesus' glorification, because through the cross, Jesus returns to the glory that was his before the world began. The world became flesh and lived among us until by the cross he returned to his pre-existent glory and sat down at the right hand of the Father. The hour has come for the Son of Man to be glorified. There is no Garden of Gethsemane in John's gospel. The closest thing we have is, "Now is my soul troubled." What should I say? Says Jesus, "Father, save me from this hour." No, it was for this reason that I have come to this hour. "Father, glorify your name." Then the voice came from heaven, "I have glorified it, and I will glorify it again." Some people heard the voice, others thought they heard thunder. Jesus always hears the voice of God directly his whole life, at his baptism, at the transfiguration, and now when the time has come. Now is the judgment of this world, says Jesus. Now the ruler of this world is driven out, and I, when I am lifted up from the earth, I will draw all people, the Greek says all things, unto myself. He said this to indicate the kind of death he was to die. John gives us no reason to imagine Jesus' wounded body upon the cross. For John, the image of Jesus on the cross is Christus Rex, Christ the King. Christ robed in royal robes, arms outstretched, reigning from the cross in glory. And we put that cross up at the altar of Christ robed as Christus Rex today. It was inevitable, says John. The only way that Jesus could be available to the Greeks, to everyone, everywhere, required his death. And Jesus himself points to why, just looking at nature, very truly I tell you, unless a grain of wheat falls into the earth and dies, it remains just a single grain. But if it dies, it bears much fruit. We don't think of seeds as dying in order to grow, but they do. When a seed sprouts, it's the end of the seed, as it was. The seed breaks open, the green point goes up toward the light as the roots go down, and the seed itself is consumed, providing nutrients for both. It's a transformative business. The seed no longer remains a seed, and yet it's what seeds are made for. I found a poem about it years ago called simply A Seed of Wheat. One wheat seed hid itself in the barn. It didn't want to be planted. It didn't want to die. It didn't want to sacrifice itself. It wanted to save its life. It never became bread. It never was put on the table. It never was blessed and served. It never gave life. It never gave joy. One day, the farmer came. As he cleaned out the barn, he swept away the wheat seed with the dust. Unless a grain of wheat is buried in the ground, dead to the world, it is never more than a grain of wheat. Our lives are the same way. Anyone who holds on to life just as it is destroys that life, it says in the Message. But if you let it go, reckless with your love, you'll have it forever, real and eternal. We are meant for transformation. We were born for sacrifice, not pointless suffering, but life-giving sacrifice, like the sacrifice of childbirth. We're meant to break open, not like a bomb, but like a seed, giving rise to the life within us, which is absolutely unimaginable to us in advance. The cross does not glorify suffering. It glorifies God's transformative presence in the midst of suffering, in the midst of life as it is. God stands by choice with those who have no choice. We have no choice, saints. God has a choice, and he makes his choice to stand with us. And that is the good news of the cross. God is with us in the suffering of transformation, in turning darkness into light and death into life. Parents, artists, service members, teachers, so many sacrifice their lives on a daily basis that others might be set free, might come into the fullness of their lives. How and what are you and I called to sacrifice that more life may come to us and through us? You know the expression, what do you got to lose? I mean, usually said like, oh, ask her out. What do you got to lose? Buy a lottery ticket. What do you got to lose? Well, Holy Week is asking really the same question from a different angle. You want more life? Well, what do you got to lose? You want to have clean air, clean water, a healed creation? What do you have to lose? You want your life to matter? Really matter? What are you doing that you have to lose? What do you have to lose? What's in the way? What needs to be let go of? Jesus knew the hour had come when he could no longer be confined to Judea and Samaria and Galilee. The world beyond Israel was asking to see Jesus. In the flesh, Jesus' ministry, covered an area about half the size of Massachusetts. It lasted 3 years at the most, or maybe 18 months. Only as the glorified and risen Christ would he be available to all people in all times and in all places through word and sacrament and spirit. For this, for us, he was willing to be raised up and willing to be buried in the earth like a seed, that he might rise and give life to the world. I used to make retreats with fellow clergy at Holy Cross Monastery in New York, and I was praying there when I looked up and noticed a very unusual cross. It was a wooden cross. It was Christ in robes on a cross of wheat. It was wheat sheaves, the whole thing, in all directions. And in his outstretched hands, he held in each hand a loaf of bread. Unless a grain of wheat falls into the earth and dies, it remains but a single seed. But if it dies, it bears much fruit. And I, when I am lifted up from the earth, will draw all things to myself. The hour has come, saints. Resurrection life is calling. What do we have to lose? Amen.